Alright, here's the new Slimphast 6-inch. Sucker's huge. Just got the arms all put on. It's a very rigid frame, and I think it's going to do well with the big motors I'm put on there. Just got the motors added, and the ones we're going with are the Hyperlight. Let's see, 2207 1522 LR edition motors. There they are. So that's what we're going to be trying out on this build. Alright, here's the build right now with all the motors connected to the 4-in-1, and then the 4-in-1, just the power leads wired up. I don't know if you've used the Omnibus F4 Pro before, but it's kind of janky how you have to wire up through the current sensors. So I've got my main power lead going to here, and then another power lead coming off of the Moto VSS down to the power lead on the 4-in-1, and then a ground from the 4-in-1 coming up to underneath here, a ground on the flight controller, and then I've also got my main ground lead connected to that same ground pad on the flight controller. So those two guys are just snugged up there against each other on that pad. It's big enough for 2 wires, it's not a big deal. But that's what I've got so far, and the plan is to, at this point, I'm going to hook up my Crossfire to this plug right here. I've got a wire made up for it. That's got, basically that's TX1 and RX1 and a 5-volt and a ground, which is exactly what I need for Crossfire. And then in the front here, that's my other 2 UARTs. That's UART3 and UART6. UART3 being my whatever SLA, STC, or whatever it's called for the compass. So that's where I'm going to be wiring up that up to, because basically this covers all of the pins I need for the M8N the GPS unit that I have. So it's got so if we look at it here on the pinout, that plug has our TX6 and RX6, which is where we're going to run our GPS to. It's got our 5-volt power supply on our ground, and it's got our SLC and SDA. So essentially what I've done is I've taken the plug that came with it here, and I used a little tool to pry up those little pin guys in the back, and I pulled each one of those plugs out, and then I rewired it how I needed it for the Omnibus F4 pin here. So this guy is just basically going to plug in. This guy is going to plug into this guy here, and that's going to supply the GPS with everything it needs and all the information it should be able to get to the flight controller. So that takes care of controls and my GPS. Unfortunately, this flight controller doesn't have any more UARTs for me to use, so I'm not going to be able to wire up smart audio to my Unify Pro, which is right here. So I'm going to be hooking that up. This is the Unify Pro HV. I've taken special care that everything on this build can support up to 6S. That's because I've chosen these low kV motors here, 1922 kV motors, and so I want to make sure that if I want to run a 5S pack, I can try that. If I want to try a 6S pack, I can try that. I'm likely going to just end up running the 2200 5S packs, but we'll see. So I'm going to wire my VTX up to my, it's going to run, this is the HV, Unify Pro HV, which takes up to 26 volts. So I'm just going to wire that right up to my main battery leads. And then I'm going to run my video wire to the video out on the OSD. For the camera, I've got the Runcam Micro Eagle here. That's going to be mounted right up front on the front standoffs. From what I've been told, this sucker has the best picture, and if I'm going to be flying up through the Alps a mile away, I want to be able to see it in all its glory through the FPV camera. So that's what I'm going to have hooked up there. And again, I'm going to run the video to the video in, and I'm going to power this camera. Again, this also supports 5 to 36 volts. So I could just wire this up to the battery as well. I'm hesitant to do that just because of the voltage spikes. I'm afraid it's going to fry my components. I might just hook that up here to the 5-volt out and just run this on 5 volts. But I think this should be fine on the battery power. And that is that. I still need to add a few caps. I forgot about that. With 5 and 6S batteries, I need to run some big caps. So I need to add those, and I'll probably end up just taping them here to the bottom of the arms. Since I'm using a bottom mount battery, those will never touch the ground. It'll be teetering on the battery. But that's the plan. This guy will go on the back of the GoPro mount up top here, like here or here or something, just like that, and should have no problem getting a signal. Alright, so here's where I'm at. I threw 2 large caps on the bottom. These are 35 volt, 1000 UF and one 470, I think it was. And then I've got my VTX plug here soldered up. I actually ran power and ground to battery, which I really shouldn't have. I should have just ran it right to here on the power and ground pins. I might actually pull that off and redo it. I originally had done this because I was going to run 5 volts to my camera using the 5 volt jumper to make the RAM be 5 volts, but the problem was it came up at like 4.7 volts, and this camera wouldn't even power up. Yeah, Runcam Micro Eagle wouldn't even power up at that 4.89 volts or whatever it was, so I switched it over to RAM. So now the RAM pin in the middle is actually providing battery power. So I might as well just reroute these wires from underneath right to the power and ground, make it a lot easier on myself. Let's see. Like I said, this is my VTX cable. I'm going to be running the TBS Unify Pro HV. So both of the camera and the VTX can take the 5 and 6S batteries. And then I'm going to mount that just like so. I won't be using this dipole. I only use this for testing so I don't burn up my VTX. I'm going to end up using this here, the 90-degree SMA to UFL, which mounts on the which mounts here on the rear standoffs this way, giving me a nice nice 45-degree angle for the antenna to come up and out and away from the motors, and then still have the wire coming out the side so that it's not ramming into the back of the flight control stack here. Other than that, I'll be able to plug in, again, I'm going to plug in my GPS unit here and my TBS Crossfire receiver here, and I'm going to test that and it should be good to go. I've tested the video so far, everything's good. I also, before I plugged in a battery, checked my polarity and continuity and made sure that this was hooked up correctly with no shorts anywhere. I didn't want to blow these giant caps on the bottom of my board by getting something shorted out and screwing something up. So that's that. I'm going to get the receiver plugged in and the GPS unit, and I'll be testing that and making sure that everything's working there, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, my weight with everything on there, without the GoPro, the battery, or the props, but with the GPS, like all the things that I definitely won't be flying without, and I won't be swapping out. Like, I've got a bunch of props to test, so I'm not sure what I'm going to run with yet. But we're looking at 354 grams as is. Alright, with the GoPro, it's 426 grams. With a 1554S Tattoo 2.0 battery, 618 grams. With a 1800 4S, 628 grams. With a 2300 4S, we're looking at 650 grams. With a 1500 5S battery, 668 grams. And with a 2200 5S battery, 704. Hey, if you're watching this video, I just wanted to give you a heads up that a lot of the things in this video are outdated now. I cut this video a while ago, but I still wanted to get it out, so I'm going to do an update to this that's going to include the change in motors that I made, the updated GoPro mount, the buzzer that I chose for the Lost Model buzzer. What else? Oh, why not to use the GPS unit I use. In fact, don't use any GPS unit with a compass. Just things like that, things that I learned when I built this, and then immediately found out that there are better ways to do some of these things. So I'm going to post that in an updated video, and I'll probably link that somewhere up there. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.